Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of PLN Live. I am Uriah Kaiser. I'm the publisher of Potomac Local News. Joining us tonight on our chat here on YouTube is Rich Anderson. Rich Anderson is a candidate for the chairman of the Republican Party of Virginia. Rich is going to talk to us about his plans for the Republican Party should he be elected chairman. And Rich is a longtime servant. Prince William County was a member of the Virginia House of Delegates from 2010 to 2017. And before that, he served the Air Force, retired as a colonel before he ran for office in 2009. I've been covering Rich a long time here at Potomac Local, so we certainly appreciate you coming on with us, Rich, and wanting to have a conversation with us about your run for party chairman tonight. For you watching at home, we certainly hope that you do join us here in the live chat. As you see on the right side of your screen, we do have our chat. Please share your thoughts, share your questions, and join in the conversation as it were. We want to hear from you as always. Of course, the good work that we do here at Potomac Local is brought to us by all of our subscribers. So if you're not a subscriber to Potomac Local, it is the fastest way to find out what's going on in your community in Prince William and Stafford counties and the cities of Manassas Park, and Fredericksburg. Please go to PotomacLocalNews.com and subscribe to our weekday email newsletter. Again, it's fast, easy, and free to find out what's going on in your community. All right, commercials out of the way. Rich, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
So listen, I want to jump right into it. You're a guy who's no stranger to campaigning. You in Prince William County, you've been known to knock many doors, and you served multiple terms in the House of Delegates, as we said. Now you're knocking doors across the state, and you're wanting to lead a party that at one point in your most recent campaign to retake your House seat, which was an unsuccessful campaign in 2019, it's a party that kind of left you out on the battlefield, kind of twisted in the wind. I'm going to start right out with that, because we'll start there and then go into why you want to do this. So this is a party that promised you some support, and in the end, you find out you didn't get it. So kind of walk us through how that happened, and how, I guess, what was the outcome? How did that affect your campaign in 2019?
Well, that's an interesting question, and actually that's a surprise question that I wasn't expecting. You must have a pretty good source there, Uriah Kaiser. So let me just step you through 2019. The caucus in Richmond had asked me to consider running again because, quite frankly, in the 2018 and 2019 session, the Prince William County delegation to the General Assembly came away with virtually no legislation of substance to speak of. Nibbled around the edges, but many in our delegation, rather than carrying standalone legislation, simply jumped on the legislation of others, and then, of course, claimed victory when that legislation passed. So the caucus encouraged me to run, so did citizens here. And as a result, I decided to run again. I announced in early 2019. And so we stepped through, we began knocking doors in March and knocked all the way through the night before the election. And the way to narrate this whole door knocking thing that you ask about is that as we moved through the cycle and started into August, and I had probably knocked on, I'd have to look at records, but I'm going to say probably I was about at the 7,000 door level somewhere, give or take a little bit there. And long about Labor Day, business decisions had to be made by the Republican caucus in the Virginia House of Delegates, where to spend scarce resources. I mean, parties just have to make those sorts of business decisions about where to invest their funds to get the most return for their campaign dollars. And so my campaign was a campaign that, because of the situation here and the fact that they had not been as successful as they wished to be in raising money. And just to put it in perspective, Republicans in Virginia raised in round numbers $6 million in preparation for the 2019 campaign, whereas the other party raised about 10 million. And it's just absolutely difficult to be competitive with a delta of $4 million. And so what I could have done at Labor Day is I could have simply thrown in the towel and gone through a shallow motion of conducting a campaign. But the decision I made was to stay on the doors. And unlike anybody else in this campaign in our area of the state, at least I haven't found anyone who has at least claimed to have the same experience. I knocked doors anywhere from 5 to 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, in that hot 98-degree weather that we had. And I did so for a reason. There are political strategies that involve pinning down your opponents. And a lot of, let's just call it money from undesirable places.
Out-of-state money that came in for the Democrats.
Vast majority of my money came from Virginia and from Prince William County, the people who knew the candidates best in my race pairing. And on the other side, it just flowed in from out of state. Political welfare, if you want to call it, just flowed in. And so there's just very difficult to move through that. So I decided I'll pin it down. That way my opponent would have to spend their money here, could only share negligible amounts with other candidates of her party in the state. And I just simply said to the Speaker of the House, I'm going to make that fool spend every penny here. And that's what we did.
And you're talking about Hyla Ayala, who is a delegate who took the seat in 2017 and took it again in 2019. And she is now running for statewide office.
Correct.
And so, but that's a strategy that you almost sounds like you stayed in the fight, you stayed in the race, knowing it could very well be a losing battle. You were outspent, you were out organized in terms of money. And so has this been a constant issue for Republicans running in Virginia, at least in recent years? Talk about the money, the influx that Democrats have seen, and some of the challenges that Republicans have seen to try to get anywhere near as much money as Democrats have received.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've had difficulties and challenges in fundraising in recent years, and I'll tell you, at least let me speak from the perspective of someone who is running to chair the Republican Party of Virginia, something that I never anticipated doing, but it became mine to do. So here we are. The party itself has not been aggressive in the fundraising department at all. I'm talking about Republican Party of Virginia, RPV, writ large. Like any political party, the party receives transfers of what I'll just simply call grant money from Republican national organizations, the Republican National Committee, the Senate Republican Campaign Committee, the House Republican Campaign Committee at the federal levels, and other organizations. But that is not enough to sustain the operations of a party on a statewide basis. And so the chairman has to be deeply engaged. The chairman has to be prepared to get on an airplane and go anywhere in this country, sit on the other side of a desk from the right people who wish to see their money well invested and positive policy outcomes from that investment. And so that's going to have to happen. I plan on using the chairman of the RPV, Republican Party of Virginia Finance Committee, and the Finance Committee, and our congressional delegation, as well as delegations from other states, to find those sources of money. Because in the end, it's all about resources.
If you're a Republican in Virginia, what do you think the Republican Party needs to do? Participate in our chat. It's going on right now for those who are watching live. We want to hear from you. Virginia is gone bright blue in the 2019 election, went blue in 2017. The Republicans have their challenges ahead. So what do you think those watching from home, the Republicans need to do to get back in the fight in terms of politics and reorganize? Rich, I mean, it is. I mean, it's a very bright blue state now. The Democrats took both houses in the General Assembly. As of November, they had a very strong and effective General Assembly session back in January before the coronavirus pandemic hit. You've got a tough road ahead of you, and if you could just kind of, you talked about raising money. Is it all about money, or are there other things that need to happen for Republicans to be successful again in Virginia other than raising money?
Well, the party's got to do a deep reassessment of its operation. Let me just spit out a few things that I feel we need to do. And this is the tip of the iceberg. There are probably, for everything that I'll talk about tonight, I've got about 100 other things that have worked well elsewhere for both parties, and some other initiatives that I would just simply call them proprietary to the Republican Party, and I won't talk about them, but just so therefore let me talk about those in this public forum that I think will give you an indication of some of the things we need to do and will do. Looking beyond the whole money chase, which is an important element here. First of all, we have to get serious as a party, stop nibbling around the edge, and register voters in unprecedented numbers. It doesn't take any particular sophistication, brains, or secret formula to register new voters. It takes sheer grit, hard work, going to where unregistered voters are and bringing them into the family of your particular party, and in our case, the Republican Party. For instance, in January, I went down to the Second Amendment rally in Richmond. Normally, I was in the General Assembly building and being visited by those people, but this governor inappropriately declared an emergency against a peaceful group that actually left the streets of Richmond cleaner than they found them, were orderly, respectful, and exercised every good element of good citizenship. I went down there and I saw that. And I looked over that crowd, far larger than any crowd in memory in Richmond for any conservative or liberal issue, and said, these are the men and women whose energy needs to be harnessed to make this party great again within the state of Virginia.
Do you feel like they've been left out? Do you feel like that no one's sort of tapped them? You know, so I'm in the news business, right? And when I peer into when I peer into publications and TV stations in the southwest corner of the state, there are regularly, and especially at the early part of this year, stories about militia, right, getting together and wanting to protect the Second Amendment rights, and it's very different than the type of coverage that you see in Northern Virginia. Do you feel like that the Republican Party has not tapped into that their base essentially?
Well, I'm not talking about militias. I'm talking about Joe and Jane citizen who understands their federal constitution and the constitution of their commonwealth and the sacrosanct nature of the amendments to the Constitution. And so that is what brought them to Richmond. People from every walk of life, every shape, fashion, and form. And they came to Richmond, and what I saw were these exceptionally well-behaved people who exercised their First Amendment rights to assemble and exercise speech rights. And what we have got to do is harness them across that issue and a slew of other issues. Our party has made no concerted effort to be the galvanizing point and to render a rallying cry to get them together. And I fully intend to do that, not me alone, but with legions of people across this state who are ready. What I have found, Uriah, is on these issues that out in the individual communities and the Republican committees that we have, and there are 126 around the state, local Republican units, many of them are well organized, but they have not been galvanized by the headquarters that has to provide a common point of reference and move them out in a coordinated way. That's got to change, and I intend to change that with the help of others.
So are you out there her listening, are you a former Republican voter who turned Democrat? Do you have you stopped voting in elections altogether because of whatever reason? Please tell us in the chat. Let us know. Do you vote Democrat and continue to vote Democrat because you just don't agree with what the Republicans are talking about? We do want to hear from you, all sides of the coin this evening. A question about recruiting candidates. Rich, I've heard you talk about this before, how important it is to have candidates in races. This question comes from Kathy Moser. How do we recruit candidates in the deep blue districts in urban areas like Arlington, Richmond, Hampton Roads, Norfolk? That's a challenge. I imagine. I mean, these jurisdictions are deep blue, and yeah, so talk about your plan to go in and recruit candidates for these races, many of which don't have a Republican challenger.
Right. That's absolutely crucial. It was one of the things I was going to bring up. So you are right on track with what I wish to talk about. The Republican Party of Virginia has done a very poor job. Now, the current chairman will say it's not his responsibility to recruit candidates. And in the strictest sense of that word, he's correct. It is the responsibility of the House and Senate Republican caucuses. And so that's a big lift. And what I wish to do, because I understand the process and I have the relationships, the deep relationships in the House and Senate Republican caucuses, to ally with them and play a deeply supportive role and appeal to those individuals in every district across Virginia, all 100 districts, and to find quality candidates that we vet for quality, that we train and equip to run effective campaigns, and we teach them how to fundraise effectively, and that we simply put strong, exceptional Virginians on the field, regardless of the district where they live and wish to serve. So we can do that. It is absolutely inexcusable to leave any fight unfought. We have to challenge the other party in every election.
You know, you look at some of the issues here, and voters at home are watching on the live stream. What are the issues that are important to you? Are you looking at social issues when you go into polling? Is it all about the coronavirus now and the response to the coronavirus? Do you think that the current administration had under Governor Ralph Northam has done a good job in terms of doing the lockdown and then reopening the state in phases, in which we are now in phase 3? Do you disagree with what the governor has done in his response to the coronavirus? What other issues? I mean, it used to be especially in Northern Virginia, it was always traffic. We talked about traffic, but now with the lockdown and more people working from home, we've sort of shifted the focus. So, what are the issues, do you think, Rich, that Republicans, successful Republicans, will be running on in the years to come here in Virginia?
Well, I think what we need to do is we need to run on, this is such an overused word, a phrase, but kitchen table issues. And by that, I mean those issues that are important to families and their quality of life. You're talking about healthcare, you're talking about transportation, jobs, the economy, and that is going to take on a huge meaning in the coming years, because this governor has made a number of decisions that have severely injured this economy in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Now, they're going to gather on the 18th of April in the General Assembly to try to address that. But we're going to have lasting effects, and truly, the medicine is going to be far worse effects on our Commonwealth than the disease. Now, I'm not playing down coronavirus. We need to take reasonable precautions. But I also think that this governor has made unconstitutional edicts. I'm not a constitutional lawyer. But I tell you what, I've got constitutional lawyers telling me that you simply cannot, there is no provision in the Constitution for quarantining that document. And so what I am in favor of is exercising appropriate precautions, the typical ones that we've heard, which are reasonable. But to shut down an economy for a protracted period and the hardships that exerts on families in the areas of education and income and just every element of their life. And so we have to focus on that in order to, as quickly as possible, recover this economy. And quite frankly, Republicans have been very good in that regard. I think they've got a skill set.
What I want to do is I want to just, for everyone's benefit, is sort of introduce everyone else who may not be familiar with the people whom you are running against. These are the candidates. Current chairman Jack Wilson. He is running to retain his position. He was an officer in the Army. He was later a lawyer in Richmond, and he's been running the party for at least since 2018, if not longer, if I'm not mistaken. But he is looking to retain his seat, and you're also running against a gentleman named by the name of Michael Scholler. He is, believe he is with Lancaster County, the GOP committee there. And that's the eastern part of the state. And so you have, it's a three-way race. It looks like, according to this, you'll be going down to delegates from Prince William and Stafford counties in our neck of the woods. They will be going to one of multiple polling places in the state. The one for our area is the Meadow Event Park. This is right outside of Kings Dominion.
Keep scrolling and you'll see Prince William County.
There we go. Keep going, Prince William County, and there we go, Meadow Event Park. And so if you were a delegate in Prince William or Stafford, you will be going down to Meadow Event. But this will be, again, multiple locations, 11 of them across the county. So kind of set the scene for us here, if you would. Tell us what you expect on this August 15th, this special election. It was originally scheduled for in May, and it was pushed back due to the coronavirus.
Yes, it was originally scheduled May 1st and 2nd in Lynchburg. It got pushed to on the same weekend to the Richmond Civic Center, Convention Center, just near the state capitol, and then rescheduled for August the 15th and redesignated as an unassembled drive-through convention at those locations. And there will be provisions, as I understand it, to go inside and vote and then depart, or to do curbside voting from your automobile. Most people will probably do curbside voting, I would suspect, and then be on their way. It will be done, at least for the 3 chair candidates, by ranked choice voting. And then by that evening, we should know the result. So this is a new experience for us. The other party did, as you probably know, a virtual convention online. The Republican Party of Virginia State Central Committee, which is the governing body, made the decision to do it as an unassembled drive-through.
You know, you bring up the other party, which is VA Dems, Democratic Party of Virginia, and they're very organized. I mean, they've been obviously very successful, and they've laid the groundwork for their success over the years to achieve the number of seats that they have achieved statewide. They control, they pretty much control the both legislatures and the governor's mansion, and really a lot of that comes from Northern Virginia, red vote rich Northern Virginia. You know, Southern Virginia, Southwest Virginia. I know where you're from. You're from Roanoke, and I was born in Bluefield, West Virginia, which is right on the line there. So you and I both familiar with the southwest part of the state, losing population, and Northern Virginia continues to gain population, and half of the state's population will live between Fredericksburg and Washington, D.C. by 2040. And so does that trigger some sense in you that this is where the party needs to be focused on, doing these voter registration drives, going into neighborhoods, introducing yourself to some who may not even know the Republican Party is an option for them?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. You know, as a guy who spent 30 years in a uniform, you grow the military services with recruiting. We grow our party through voter registration, and we need to do that in substantial ways. What that means is, within the party, is working on the culture, the paradigm, so that all of our units across the state, even in bright red areas, are continuing to grow. And so I've got some initiatives that I have planned that, and using the help of others who are experts in this to assist me over the coming year in doing just that. It's absolutely crucial because in 2021, we have a legislative race here in Virginia, legislative elections where we'll have all 100 House of Delegates seats on the ballot, as well as the 3 principal positions, statewide positions. So we have to do this. We cannot fool around. We've got to get to work.
Those of you, so in the chat, tell us, why do you think Virginia went blue? What was it that triggered the Democrats' success in the state? Was it, which issues do you think that they outlead Republicans on now here in the state? And do you think that Democrats, that the state is completely blue now? It will not go back Republican as the state was in the 90s and in the early 2000s. What do you think, and give us your opinion on what the Republicans, how they may have lost control, what they do wrong, what were the missteps. And Rich, I want to say to you, covering Prince William County politics for so long, Prince William County was a red county when I started this job. It then became solidly blue, but in between there, it was a purple county, right? And we had so much attention in terms of presidential candidates. Obama came twice. Mitt Romney came in 2012. Trump came in 2015 during his first run. But as time went on in Prince William County, it became less and less of a purple county and solidly in the blue column. And Trump did not come back during really when his reelection campaign sort of heated up. So he was there in December of 2015. And of course, the election was in November of 2016. So you have said Prince William County is crucial to your plan to make the Republican Party competitive again. We have the county has a new chair. And newly elected chair, and so how's this going to play in your plan to make Prince William a competitive place again?
Well, first of all, the electoral results that you have seen in the last couple of years resulted from a long game on their part. And so what I have planned is also a long game. You don't turn these battleships overnight. But what we have is, I believe that we have those who now occupy positions of responsibility, elected positions of responsibility, not all, but a significant number, who have moved to a place where I believe it is going to have an adverse impact. Just like the physical world, in the political, every action has an opposite and equal reaction over time. This is a pendulum business. I used to think when I first got into the General Assembly and some of my colleagues were very satisfied with their electoral strength, the numbers, that they seemed to think that it was almost a realignment of the voting public. That's not the case. And now the situation that we have, that's not the case either. This is a very dynamic, not a static profession, it's not a static enterprise. And I'm telling you, that pendulum has swung back and forth over the last 2.5 centuries. It is not about to stop now. It is the American way with 2 political parties. And so my intention as the chairman is to bend every degree of mind and spirit I have to take that pendulum and start it on a swing in the other direction as far and as quickly as possible. But that's going to be hard work and a long game. We're going to be aided, I believe, by what you see coming out of this General Assembly, and then what you also see coming out of the Democratic Party in Washington. I have a number of Democratic friends who tell me that their party has gone way too far left, and they're very concerned about where their party is, that it is dominated by a radicalized left, not your what I would call legacy liberals, the left of center fellow citizens who we know who are members of the Democratic Party. They have gone to a radicalized leadership element, and I believe that in the run of things, that is going to play in our party's favor.
This summer, this country has been on fire, literally, over over race and the Black Lives Matter movement. We've seen marches and riots, and even right here in our county, in our area, both in Prince William County and in the city of Fredericksburg, we have seen just actions that as a reporter covering the region for more than 10 years, I've never seen before. And one of the conversations I had with Prince William, the new Republican chairman of the GOP committee in Prince William County, Tim Parrish, I asked him, Mr. Parrish, who is Black, I said, do you think that this will sort of allow your organization to maybe get a foot in the door of some other area organizations that may have not welcomed you in before, maybe churches or nonprofits or what have you? How do you, how much, what role does diversity play in the future Republican Party of Virginia and opening up the party and the organization that you would lead to people of different voices and colors and creeds and backgrounds?
Well, I'm looking to the 2019 election cycle, and a number of individuals who ran for House of Delegates seats. They came in all kinds of shapes, colors, sizes, forms, and backgrounds. And so we are going to look for quality candidates that from every walk of our community, because we need talent, and my intention is to bring them in. So I have already had deep discussions. Some would say perhaps I've gotten ahead of myself, but I always like to be prepared should the delegates to the Virginia Republican Party State Convention choose me to be their chair. I want to be ready to execute these plans on Monday, the 17th of August. I don't want to diddle daddle. I want to move out and move out quickly. And so I have already had telephone discussions and Zoom sessions with representatives of multiple minority groups who are conservative in nature and wish to see our party rebound. I'm talking about, you name the group, and I have pretty much met with them. I've also met with other organizations who I believe are going to be important on a range of issues to help put this party back on a solid footing. You know, America is a two-party system, and our the American politic works better when we have two vibrant, engaged parties. Now, obviously, I want my party to prevail, but we need two parties that are vibrant and engaged and bringing in the broadest cross-section of Americans to participate in the public life of our state and nation. And that's what I intend to do.
One question here from the former Prince William GOP Chairman, Bill Card. Every RPV chairman except the current one has visited Prince William County's committee, the GOP committee. Do you plan on going around the state? I mean, again, you're from the southwest portion of the state. You've been here in Northern Virginia, retired from the Pentagon, if I'm not mistaken, retired an Air Force colonel, if I'm not mistaken. So what's your plan about visiting the GOPs across the state and engaging?
Since January, that's precisely what I've done. I've been to every corner of this state. I have visited dozens of local Republican units of the 126, and virtually all of them tell me that over the last 2 years, they have not seen the current chairman of the party. And I think that was a strategic mistake. You must lead from the front. You must march onto the battlefield where your troops live and work and serve. And so I've been all around the state and have visited with many of them. My intention is to wear out a lot of rubber on the road to the four corners of this state in order to confer with Republicans far and wide who are going to be the brain power and the energy in getting this party in Virginia moving once again. I'm a pilot, and so I intend to log a lot of hours, especially going to those faraway places in Southwest Virginia. And I've got a friend who has a prop jet, and he has offered to get me to where I need to go. I can be in Abingdon from the Manassas airport in 45 minutes. And so my intention is I'm going to be present because that's my job.
One has to wonder about the other candidates that are running against you for this seat. I mean, can you talk about the race? Is this the contentious race? Do you feel like you have differing views on where each of you would like to take the party, or is this come down to personality and which candidate? If I'm a Republican delegate voter on August 15th, is it just a personality contest? Which one I like best?
Well, I think the goals that I've laid out for the party, the initial goals, and those are going to be modified because this is a group sport. And when I get engaged, there are 80 people on the State Central Committee, the governing body of the Republican Party of Virginia, with whom I'm going to have to engage and wish to engage because they are a collection of smart people who understand the history of our party in recent years. And while I may chair that committee, I also am respectful of the fact that they are the policymaking body, not me, and that my job is to execute their decisions. But I plan to have a number of significant things in the early days that I want to do. I'm very much hands-on. I'm going to be very aggressive as the chairman. People are going to know that I'm engaged. I plan on being down at Republican Party of Virginia headquarters in Richmond on a regular basis. In fact, most days of the week, because if I'm charged with leadership of the party, I got to be there.
What type of candidates are you looking for? If you're a Republican voter, what type of qualities and candidates are you looking for in someone that you want to vote for, you want to represent you, whether in the state office or on the local level? Tell us in the chat. Do participate with us and send in your thoughts and your questions. Rich, I covered Corey Stewart for a long time at the Prince William Board of County Supervisors, and Corey always gave us something to write about. I mean, you can say what you want about Corey Stewart, but he always gave us something to write about. But Corey was also criticized amongst Republicans for sort of being a bombastic candidate, sort of being out for himself and putting himself out in front, and did very little for the party in terms of organizing and bringing other people, Republicans, into the fold and what have you. Is this a fair criticism of not just Corey, but maybe some other candidates who we've seen rise to prominence in Virginia? E.W. Jackson also is someone who comes to mind who has been a GOP name that comes up a lot here in the state. What type of candidate do we need? What do Republicans need to be competitive?
Well, actually, I hope that those that I want to attract are really the kind of people that be attracted to service in both parties. But my focus is obviously on the Republican Party and having it dominate once again. I want individuals who have a true, and I mean a true, devotion to the principle of selfless service in the public arena, not someone who is in it for themselves, who is merely looking for a microphone or a television camera. And we do know people, both sides of the aisle, who play the game that way. But I want people who have a selfless attraction, devotion, pull to serve. I want people of competence. I want them to be fast on their feet. I want them to be clear-eyed. I want them to be not timid or tepid, but bold. I want them to be able to attract others to the cause. I want them to use their head about, if they're going to be in the legislative arena, about what truly serves the needs of Virginia families, Virginia workers, educators, education, a whole gamut of things, a whole array of things across the spectrum. I want people who want to leave, as Governor Bob McDonnell said, the camp place, the campgrounds in better shape than they found them.
You know, going back to Northern Virginia, you have a lot of young Republicans who, whether they be young Republicans or not, you have a lot of young residents, I should say. And what's Kathy Moser sends in a good question. What are you going to do to strengthen the young Republicans and their involvement in the party to try to I guess bring more youth into the fold? And I've heard some of these Republican meetings and some of these GOP committees kind of described as sort of dinner time at the retirement home at some point, where you meet at 3 o'clock and you're done by 5 and everybody goes their separate ways. So what's the plan to bring in the youth?
Well, I'm heartened when I go to a Prince William County Republican Committee meeting, because there are a large number of younger people there, people of the college Republican and young Republican age group. I'm really gratified to see them there. But we have 3 groups in the party that make special contributions. One is the Virginia Federation of Republican Women, and we have 2 clubs of that organization, 2 local affiliates here in Prince William County. We also have boundless energy in the form of the college Republicans and the young Republicans, and we simply need to grow their ranks. I have plans the week of the 17th of August, should I be chosen to serve as chairman, to sit down with the leadership of those groups and find out exactly what they need from me and the state party in order to move out, in order to grow, in order to feel like they have a even greater role in the party. They already have a great role in the party. They're deeply immersed in elections and campaigns. There was never an election cycle where there weren't large numbers of women from the Virginia Federation of Republican Women and affiliate clubs and YRs and CRs who were with me knocking on doors. They provided a substantial amount of manpower to do the doors. And these weren't hired mercenaries. These were young people who had a heart for conservative Republican principles and were ready to tell the good news of those principles at the doors of your neighbors right here in Prince William County. And so the other thing that I want to do is I want to provide real substantive opportunities for them, more of them, to move into positions of leadership within the party.
So let me switch gears here on you, because we have been talking a lot about what you want to do, what you plan to do, but I'm sort of going to do a sort of a hindsight 2023, and you've been in Virginia a long time. You've networked with a lot of people who are in power and have been around the political circles. At what point did it go south for the Republicans in Virginia? At what point did they start to lose their footing, and which obviously led to losing elections? What went wrong? And where can you throw a dart on a map and pinpoint that point on a timeline?
I can't tell you that it was September 1st, 2000 and whatever year. I just can't pinpoint that. But what I can say is that it is a direct cause and effect relationship between the ability of the state party in Richmond to be aggressive and to approach this with what it is. It's a fight for the soul and heart of our country. And I see people in our local Republican units that have that mindset, that this is a crucial battle that must be fought because they love their country. And we have not had a state party that has leveraged their efforts, that has unified them across the state, that has done such things as mobilize them in deployment packages from safer red areas to come into the more blue or purple areas to be of assistance. And that's just one initiative that I want to execute. We have got to do that, and I intend to do that.
Do you think Republicans need to be softer in terms on some of the social issues? Right, we've seen as of July 1st, small possession of small amounts of marijuana is no longer well, it's like a $25 fine, right? It's still a crime, but it's $25 fine. And we've seen some of the sort of restrictions that I grew up with in Virginia kind of now sort of be just negligent fines, and many believe that things like marijuana will be legal in Virginia in a very short amount of time. And so and looking back to when I was a kid growing up in the late 80s, 90s, that you would never think that something like that in Virginia would happen. So does the Republican Party need to recognize sort of the social changes that have sort of taken foot in Virginia and move forward, or do you think social issues should be some of the focus, at least some of the focus of candidates who'll be running on the Republican tickets?
Well, let's put it this way: particularly this year, the General Assembly session was all about social issues on the other side. I mean, they trafficked in social issues to the exclusion of so much else, in my opinion. And so the question about decriminalization of marijuana use, that's a done deal. They've already made that decision. And so I don't want to replow that ground. But on the issue, if you want to talk about one issue, and I don't speak for the party yet, so I'm speaking for myself, but legalization of marijuana, I believe, is a bad policy choice. And why? Simply because if you look at the example in the half dozen or so states that have done it, DWI rates have climbed by about 30%. There is a body of informed medical study that indicates the impact that has on developing teenage brains. And there's probably people out there who think that I'm misapplying the science, but nonetheless, that's what the science seems to say. And I know that as a legislator, or that would be a difficult thing to address from the policy perspective. We legalize that in Virginia. There are going to be huge policy implications that are going to require huge focus by the General Assembly, and will, in the end, should our friends on the other side permit police forces to continue to exist, will consume vast amounts of resources for them.
I think so. I've heard it described as defund the police doesn't necessarily mean get rid of the police. It just means take away some of their funding and give it to other organizations such as social workers and other governmental agencies. Not to totally get rid of the police, but let me ask you this: does the GOP agenda become all about repealing some of the advances that that have been made in the Democrat-controlled General Assembly? Does it become about that, or do you come up with new ideas and present those and leave what has been done in place? And if it is about repealing some of the advancements that have been made in the General Assembly, especially this session, what are they?
Well, first of all, I come right back to what I said before. I do not speak for the party yet, and most of those decisions will be made by those who represent us in the General Assembly from the Republican Party. So I think it's premature for me to talk in depth about all that, because I'm not empowered to do so. And those are policy judgments that the party may make and positions they may take that I just simply cannot take on my own. And so therefore, I don't wish right now to spend a lot of time talking in the hypothetical. But name a couple of issues for me.
If you take a look at such as providing driver's license to undocumented to people who are sort of here. I don't want to use illegally, but Serval's bill passed that provides those driver's license to undocumented workers so they can get to work. Again, with the legalization of the decriminalization, I should say, of marijuana. These were big issues. And then again, with what's happened this spring, we see a lot of calls to defund police, and you have people who are questioning, in terms of education. 2 years ago, we saw SROs, school resource officers. We saw parents and elected officials clamoring to get SROs into schools following the shooting in Florida at Stoneman Douglas High School. And now we have these same local policymakers talking about maybe pulling them out because times have changed. So, I guess will these candidates have to take all of this into sort of effect into consideration as they hit the campaign trail and do the door knocking, or do they sort of stand steadfast and this is the way it should be, and I'm not budging, and this is what this is the Republican credo, and despite what has come before, we need to sort of take things back to the way it was?
Well, those things will be determined by the caucuses as they bring in new candidates. And as I said before, I intend to assist in that in a very deep way, in a very deep collaboration with both caucuses to the degree that they will permit that. I've had some discussions, at least in the House Republican caucus, about that thing, and I think that they will welcome it. But I just still think it's premature to proclaim specific policy positions that we will take. So
that's fair. That's fair. I appreciate you taking these questions, and we've been on here for about the hour now. In summary, what do you see the competitive level of the playing field for politics in Virginia? What do you think it'll look like in 10 years? You talked about the pendulum. You talked about getting more people involved. We're seeing a lot of exodus from states in the northeastern section of the country who are moving to the sort of the Sun Belt, which now includes the Southeast United States. Across the board, Interstate 40, I guess, is the linking road that people are moving in alongside of. And as they come to Virginia, do they bring their politics with them? And do you think that that's something you're also going to have to fight? People who are coming here from New York State for lower taxes or a different level of politics, do you fear that they will then bring the same, they will demand the same sort of politics and resources and sort of the way things that they were used to having in their states to Virginia? Is that something that sort of the Republicans are going to have to fight too?
Well, it's a strange phenomenon. Having spent over the course of 8 years in the General Assembly, I knocked on tens of thousands of doors. And you'd be surprised how many conversation that one has at the doors, if they're a candidate, that is with someone who came from another state. And typically, you're right, it was from the Northeast. And they came here in order to flee those kinds of things that they felt were oppressive: high taxes, substandard education systems, traffic congestion. And they come here, and for those who vote for Democrat candidates, they vote for to create the same situation in their new homes. So perhaps they are programming their new state in a configuration to where they may start moving further southeast at some point. One of the things that I hear quite often, Uriah, I mean very often at the doors, are for people who have immigrated to this country and they work here. What I hear at the doors, heard at the doors up until the last election cycle, is a fear that this country is becoming what they fled. I hear that time and time again, enough that I see a consistency of opinion across the population of Prince William County, because that's the place where I door knocked. And so you asked, what does Virginia look like 10 years?
Yeah, well, the political playing field here in Virginia. I mean,
back to that, and I'll tell you why. I absolutely hate that question, because neither I, nor you, nor anyone in office, or anyone who aspires to be in office, we don't have a crystal ball. We can't see the future. I cannot guarantee outcomes, but I can guarantee equal opportunity. And the equal opportunity that I do pledge to my fellow Republicans and my Democratic friends out there can take this to the bank. I pledge an organization that is going to fight and is going to win.
Rich Anderson is the candidate, one of the candidates anyway, one of 3 candidates for the chairman of the Republican Party of Virginia. Rich, appreciate your time this evening, and you taken all of our questions here and the audience questions too. We thank the audience for participating in this discussion. We always appreciate your questions and your feedback. Again, if you are not an email subscriber to Potomac Local News, please go to our site, potomaclocalnews.com, and sign up for our free weekday email. It's full of local news to start your day every weekday at 5 a.m. It's the fastest, easiest way to make yourself smarter about your community. So, Rich, good luck to you, and we will obviously be watching.
Thank you. I plan on giving you plenty to cover, Uriah, and thanks this evening for having me on. And to your listening audience, whether it's friend or foe, thanks for tuning in. Good night.
All right, we are